I guess seeing Nanashi parting ways with Midi one time wasn't enough, so we had to see it a second time, and it sucks both times. It makes you think that at some point everybody was like, that whole scene with Nanashi having to give up Miti and have Regu take it out, that was so great. That was such an emotional roller coaster, and the writer's like, how can I make that happen again? Oh, let's have Midi pop up in this one village, and then Nanashi has to cry her eyes out, parting ways with Midi again. It sucks. It really does suck. That was a really hard scene to watch, just like the original scene. At least it's, I don't know, it feels like at least this time Nanashi doesn't have any like standing regrets. Like she went out of her way with her own hands. Obviously, that was the other key part in this particular episode. By her own hands, she's giving up Miti. She didn't have Regu do it for her. She took care of it. But yeah, it was an extremely emotional episode. Not even that, just seeing Fopta and her breakdown in later parts of this one, just an extremely emotional and rage-filled episode that I thought was probably easily one of the best episodes so far of Made in Abyss. Yes, going back to the beginning of this episode, we find out that it seems as if Beloff himself breathed the memories of him into Nanashi. So that's why Nanashi had these dreams, is that Beloff pretty much bestowed upon her all these memories, saying that he's going to be gone. Like, he's kind of accepted his fate. It's time to go. He's freed Nanashi, says you can go. Just know that over here, the barrier ends. And since Miti was created in this barrier, in this village, she's a part of it, and thus she is going to disappear once you cross this barrier. But additionally, Beloff has bestowed upon Nanashi all of his value and all of his memories, claiming that he really likes these kids and he wants to grant this upon her. This is where Nanashi is kind of established that Miti that is before her was created before her, and Bondru did all those horrible things to her. But additionally, she can't stay there. As much as she would love to stay there and sleep there, and which apparently Beloff claims that he was the one that was putting her through that sleep. I guess that would be the only way that she would be able to take upon herself all those memories. But yes, like I said earlier, she claims that, this is my turn. I had Regu handle it last time. This is going to be the time that I am going to be the one to give her up. So she goes all the way out to the thing, saying her goodbyes, which again was super sad. Watching Midi slowly, like, I don't think Midi's ever allowed to just leave a normal way. It's like she has to have her entire existence slowly ripping away. It just looks bad. But additionally, because Beloff bestowed upon her all of his value, all these other creatures, all these other hollows that Beloff owned, all came out to support her, bringing her this helmet that apparently they crafted for her. So I guess we're giving up the cute little hat for a helmet now. It seems like even they have accepted their fate. I guess that's the oddity around the hollows themselves, is they don't really kind of see death and everything the same way that we do. But I guess technically if he meant them as well as his value, they would follow her because they are hers. That's when we cut over to Fopta, just completely decimating everything. Regu is finally waking up. He looks over and she's just shredding the hell out of all these hollows, getting her revenge. We get a brief cut of Wazukan with Fueko, and he says at some point that with how everything's happening, this will be difficult. She's asking what's going to be difficult, because we have the balancings coming out and it's attacking each of the villagers. My assumption here is what I got out of that was that yes, the whole system could be messing up and going berserk, but it sort of indicated that because they're fighting Fopta and they're striking each other in the meantime, it seems like the balancing's happening at the same time that all this other crap's happening. So everything is going haywire. And yes, Wazukan's saying that it's going to make things very difficult. He won't tell Waco when she asks because he says, look, I'm bad at lying, so I'm not going to say anything. So it's just, I guess whatever's difficult for him to do, he doesn't want to tell her. But even still later on, we do have this point in which the whole upper area is open in the village and all this iron rain is coming down. He extends all these tendrils all the way up to cover up the entire village. So it sort of indicates to me that Wazukan, even at this point, while everything's falling apart, he doesn't want to let this go. I don't know if he's doing this in order to possibly trap Irumui, or if he's possibly doing this because he wants to protect the village. He wants to retain it, which would go counter to what he told Riko. Or at least what Riko was suggesting that is his thing. He doesn't want to be trapped here, and he would love to continue on his journey, but he could also see that if this place falls apart, we're dead. It's not a case of this place falls apart, we get to go on our journey. We exist here. But yeah, Riko tells Regu that she wants him to protect the people here. She likes the people here. They saved her life before. And so Regu reluctantly goes out there to Fopta and says, hey, I still gotta save my friend. None of she's here. Please don't hurt her. And Fopta's like, then go save her. I don't care. Go do what you want to do. Don't make that as an excuse to stop me. If you want to stop, say what you want to say. Like, Fopta's like cutting the crap. Like, she's like, if you want me to stop, say something. So yeah, he pretty much tells her, yeah, look, I want to stop you. So this gets into a lot of history of both Fopta and Regu, or at least, again, we're assuming it's Regu based on the fact that he is seeing some of these memories. He does make a mention later on in the episode that he does recall certain things. He recalls laughing, he recalls crying, he recalls, the curiosity that they had, but the important things he can't seem to remember. So we do get a brief perspective of what all kind of unfolded. The moment that Fopta first met him, apparently Gabu was not doing well, so he shows up. She quickly goes on the defense, but it seems like based on the fact that he is similar to Gabu, she trusted him. And despite the fact that she couldn't communicate to him at that time, he still protected them. He protected them until Gabu was able to move again. So this is where it kind of starts building up a lot of, again, like that emotion that we get later in the episode, showing how they hang out. At some point, Gabu was doing a lot of translation between the two of them. He started learning her language. He gives her the name Fopta, which basically means noble maiden and immortal one put into one. And yes, being a little embarrassed about the fact that she's running around with nothing on, he decides to give her these two little plates that she ends up wearing on her chest, which end up being a symbol of friendship. And additionally, eventually we learn that Sasu is apparently, it implies that it is based on her mother's tongue, which would be Irumui. That apparently back in her culture, the maidens of the village, they would say Sasu. So they're trying to make her into this actual proper maiden, and that's why she says that. That's why she got her little princess mentality. Eventually in the flashbacks, she does end up showing Regu where her mother is, noting these signs that she places upon everything that is her haku, or her precious thing. It seems like Gabu is one that is marked with this. The village is marked with another one. And he asks, look, you're one and only, so why do you have more than one? She's like, well, I have 3 of these eggs, so I'm allowed to have more than one haku. And this all eventually led to the point which he had to leave. He has to go find his haku, and so despite the fact that he has the ability to use his cannon, which he says that he can't use at the time, he says that he will return at some point after getting his haku, and he'll help her. And just before he leaves, yeah, this is kind of the sad part, because it gives a sense that she's obviously doesn't want him to leave. And she claims that when he does return, because she's a princess, once you return, stay with me forever. And then she says, and then children, like implying that she wants to have children with him eventually. And it seems like after he leaves, he goes and he darts off to leave to the upper floors. It kind of shows her alone. And kind of like she's getting, it's agitating her. Like she's broken, like that point. She's alone, she's broken, and it really does kind of eat at her. Which honestly, adding in with the fact that once he finally returns, he doesn't even remember her. It's like all this stuff kind of adding up to this huge amount of frustration that she probably was facing at that time. By the way, without a doubt, Fopta Seiyu, Misaki Kuno, nailed this entire episode so dang good. Hearing the cracking of her voice as she starts to break down was absolutely phenomenal. As for the battle itself, really awesome. Like, there was so many fantastic shots in this episode. A lot of the combat sequences were really fantastic. Mostly in the fighting, it was just them kind of exchanging verbal blows, just her frustration with what's going on, him trying to stop her, trying to figure out some way to stop her. At some point, she was trying to restore his memories, so she's like, well, hitting him in the outside didn't work, so how about this? And she like shoves her hand inside of his mouth and starts like releasing this pulse or this attack or something inside of him. And then afterwards, he's like, you should be more graceful or something like that. Doing something like that's not graceful. You're a princess. It was just so weird. Yeah, at some point, he did call out to Riko to use Prushka's flute. This is when we do find out that it was, in fact, Fopta that took the whistle. She said that she was testing Riko, and it was odd to her that Riko herself, despite the fact that they're drawn together, this human and this whistle, it's odd to her that Riko didn't know that she was trying to get out of the stone that she was in. Because if we noticed, when it was taken to the stone carver, they carved and allowed her to basically blossom, to come out of the shell, so to speak. And that's something that Riko should have heard. But in using this, Fopta says, how dare you, human, use that kind stone person against me. Again, going back to the fact that Fopta knew Prushka, and Prushka was this kind person that she knew. And so it's frustrating to her that in the midst of all this, she's using her against her. And yeah, this all kind of ends with Regu pretty much on top of Fopta, saying, yeah, it's sad that he can't remember anything. He can only remember certain things, but not the important things. And he says, it might be selfish, but you're going to burn yourself until there's nothing left. He wants to know how he can stop her. And that's when she says, you're kind, but you're foolish, and overtakes him. And that's pretty much where they cut it. It sucks. I think what this episode did so well was really kind of show that frustration that Fapta loved Regu from the very beginning, all the experience they had together. And again, that the departure that Regu had, which you can assume is probably a really long time. And for him to finally come back and doesn't remember anything about her and all the pent-up frustration that she has and being alone and everything. Yes, she has Gabu, but she feels alone. She feels very isolated. And this entire time, she's watching Mother and there's stuff happening inside of her. But yeah, I can honestly say I'm very curious as to how this is going to wrap up. Obviously, Nanashi's going to probably come back and join them. Maybe now that she has her new super helmet, she'll be fighting a little more. But I really do think that the whole situation with Regu and Fapta needs to be handled between each other. And again, like I said before, my prediction is going to be probably that somehow Irumuri is going to communicate to her to let her know not to do this. I don't know that we necessarily want this entire thing to end with Irumuri keeping the village going and they all live on happily ever after with this village still there. I don't know that they're still going to have a barrier at this point because technically Regu has destroyed it. Does that allow them to leave? I don't think so because we've already technically seen that Nanashi, in the midst of all this stuff, after Regu has broken through the barrier, Nanashi still goes beyond that barrier, and that's where she breaks. Now, I don't know if that barrier was getting too far away from Beloff or if that barrier was the edge of the village. Anyways, crazy episode. Loved to death. I will say that I went back and checked the first episode of the season. I did not see them mention the name of Vueko's owner. So I don't know. Everybody was making fun of me last episode, and I'm like, I literally never seen them mention his name. Like, that was the first time I heard a name connected to him. So, again, unless it was mentioned some other episode, maybe I missed it. Maybe if somebody could point it out. I don't know. But it seems like the last episode was the point in which they actually mentioned that guy's name and made that connection to this hollow. But yes, it does make that hollow much more disturbing now that you know, yeah, like the pulling the thing out of his mouth and everything. It was just super creepy. And yeah, it would make sense to the creation of that. This thing that is the most horrific thing within Vueko's mind as Irumuri is looking into her mind. That was the most horrifying thing to her. So to protect the village, create this extremely horrifying thing that will protect the village. Additionally, it was cool to see that this episode did not have an OP. As much as I love the OP, it's more content. But additionally, for those that are not aware yet, yeah, the final episode will be a full hour. So not only do we have episode 11, but we also have it won't be a full hour long episode. For those who don't know, they do have a lot of commercials in Japan. So them saying it's an hour long episode means it's probably gonna be 30-35 minutes the most. But either way, I'll take it. I'll take whatever I can get. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below, comment, let me know what's thought of the episode. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already. Share this video if you can. Support us on Patreon. I'll throw our tips link in the description below. We definitely appreciate everybody does, and you'll take care.